She lost the hearing in her left ear permanently to save Oliver's life. That single act of sacrifice had once made him fall to his knees in front of her parents, swearing that he would never let her down. He promised to spend his life making it up to her. But promises meant little when his heart never truly belonged to her. Because not long after, he started seeing his childhood sweetheart again, Lisa. The same woman he used to talk about like a sister was now living in the shadows of their relationship. And when Zoe refused to let Lisa move into their home, Oliver slapped her across the face in front of everyone, without shame. Her parents were furious and confronted him directly. But his response was like a dagger. She deserves her deafness. I married her out of gratitude. What more do you want? In the end, that marriage became her downfall. Lisa slowly got her hands on Zoe's family's wealth. They were left bankrupt. Her parents died one after another from the stress and heartbreak. She was left alone, penniless, betrayed, and manipulated until she finally died giving birth. That was the end of her story. Until she opened her eyes again. This time, she had gone back 3 days before the wedding. She touched her ear, now hearing perfectly, and whispered to herself, "Dad, Mom, I want to cancel the wedding." Her father paused mid-peel, an apple in his hand, and looked at her in concern. What happened? She met his eyes without trembling. "I don't want to marry Oliver." "But Zoe, you used to say you'd only marry him," her father sighed. "We've known that boy since he was little. We watched him grow up. And you lost your hearing because of him. He's already guilty enough. He'll treat you well once you're married," her mother added. But Zoe shook her head.
"Dad, Mom.
Oliver's already seeing his childhood friend Lisa behind my back." The fury in their eyes was immediate. "What?" "That bastard," her father barked, slamming the apple down and starting to rise. She stopped him gently, but firmly. "Dad, I'll handle it. This time, I'll end this cursed relationship myself." Back then, Oliver had been just a poor student. She'd sponsored him, supported his family, and gave without hesitation every time he asked. Every excuse was a new crisis. Someone in his family was sick, tuition was overdue, the rent was late. And every time he said, "I'll pay you back." He never did. The only reason they even had one promissory note was because her father had forced him to write it. And, thank God, they'd kept it. Now that she'd decided not to marry him, it was time to settle everything. At his house, just before she knocked, voices from inside drifted through the slightly open door. "Lisa's always so sweet," Oliver's mother said with a sigh. "She visits me when I'm sick." Unlike that proud, arrogant Zoe. "Exactly," Abigail, Oliver's sister, chimed in. "She thinks money makes her better than us. Lisa's the one who should be your wife. Not some deaf girl with who knows what genetic issues." Zoe pushed the door open calmly. "In that case, let's cancel the wedding." Inside, her eyes fell on a family photo hanging on the wall. Lisa, with her arm around Oliver, both smiling like a real couple. That picture had replaced the photo of Zoe and Oliver that once hung in its place. Her lip curled into a cold smile. So that's how quickly love and loyalty were replaced. "Here to apologize?" Oliver asked, stepping out from another room. There were fresh kiss marks along his neck. When he noticed her staring, he casually adjusted his collar, trying to cover them. "I'm here to end the engagement," she said coldly. His expression shifted for a moment, then he raised a brow in disbelief. "Zoe, what kind of drama are you pulling now?" "Just because I wanted Lisa to live with us? That's why you want to break up? Don't be so selfish. She's the daughter of one of my dad's old friends. Her family helped mine. She has no one now, and you won't even let her stay here for a while. You're deaf, Zoe. Wouldn't it be great if Lisa helped take care of you?" Zoe stared at him, utterly unmoved. Her hearing wasn't so bad that she needed a babysitter. And even if it were, didn't their house already have enough servants? But most importantly, she wasn't deaf anymore. After coming back to life, her hearing had been inexplicably restored. She'd even taken out her cochlear implant. Whatever bond had once tied them together had now completely snapped. She looked at him like a stranger. "Do you not understand human language?" she asked. Oliver's face tightened. He slumped onto the sofa and sneered. "Zoe, stop playing these games. This back and forth crap doesn't work on me." She slammed a folder onto the coffee table. "Then let's talk about something that does." Inside were bank records, transfer receipts, and the promissory note from years ago. Oliver flipped it open. His face immediately darkened. "What are you implying?" "Pay back everything your family owes me. With interest." Her tone was steady, cold, sharp. "You're seriously bringing up money over this?" Oliver growled. "Miss Zoe." Lisa's voice rang out softly as she stepped into view. "Why be so stingy? Talking about money damages relationships." Zoe turned to her, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Since you're so generous, Lisa, why don't you pay the $5 million on your family's behalf?" Lisa's eyes welled up with tears. "You know my family's just average. I can't pay that kind of money. Are you trying to humiliate me on purpose?" Her pitiful look only made Oliver angrier. "Zoe, haven't you bullied Lisa enough? You think having money makes you better than everyone. Don't blame Sister Zoe. It's my fault. I was born into the wrong family," Lisa whispered, tears falling as she leaned into Oliver's arms. "If you won't apologize to her, then get out of my house," Oliver shouted. Zoe watched him in silence. Lisa, nestled in his embrace, flashed her a smug smile, one she recognized. It was the exact same smile Lisa had the day she died. Oliver's mother clasped Zoe's hand with feigned gentleness, her voice full of empty sympathy. "Don't take it personally, sweetheart. Oliver just gets emotional when it comes to Lisa. No need to argue over whose name is on the deed or who owns what. Let's not drag both sides into something unpleasant." She gave a weak smile, pretending to be the peacemaker. "He means well. Lisa's had such a tough life. Our house is so spacious, letting her stay here for a bit won't harm anyone. And since you're always working so hard, having Lisa around could actually help you out." Zoe stared at her coldly. This same woman had once sobbed into Zoe's shoulder when she lost her hearing, saving Oliver's life. Back then, she had sworn through tears that the family would owe Zoe forever. If Oliver ever failed her, she had promised to break his legs herself. But in her past life, she had protected him, enabled him, and covered every affair and lie. And now she was putting on this act again, thinking Zoe wouldn't see through it. "I'm not marrying into this family," Zoe said calmly, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Let's just settle the debts today. Return everything I ever gave, and we'll walk away peacefully." Oliver's face went pale. Everyone stiffened. Lisa, predictably, was the first to explode. "Give it back? Why should I return what you gave to Oliver?" she snapped, eyes flashing. "Exactly," Abigail chimed in. "Zoe, don't be so petty. If it's a gift, you can't take it back." Oliver's mother, her smile growing forced, tried again. "Zoe, come on now. We're family. Don't make this ugly."
"I'm sorry. Okay."
"You're a good girl, can't you be the bigger person and let this go?" But before Zoe could respond, Oliver leapt up in rage. "Zoe, enough. You're really going to make my elderly mother apologize to you?" Arms crossed, Zoe looked at every face in that room. "I haven't even stepped fully into this house yet, so don't call yourselves my family. And as for what was a gift and what was a loan, you all know the truth. If you don't want this to turn into a scandal, you better start packing." Oliver's expression darkened like a thundercloud. He lunged forward and grabbed her wrist, his grip iron tight, trying to drag her outside. Zoe struggled to break free, but the fury driving his strength made it impossible. Just when she braced herself for the worst, his hand was yanked away. She turned, startled, and her eyes widened.
"Luis? How?"
"How did you know I was here?" He gave her a small smile, gentle and familiar. Luis, another student she once helped, had always been grateful and kind, never asking for anything. In her past life, she had distanced herself from him after marrying Oliver to avoid misunderstandings. "I stopped by your house. Your uncle said you were here." I figured I should come see if you needed help. He turned then, his warm gaze turning sharp as he faced Oliver. You haven't changed at all, have you? He said. Zoe saved your life. She's your fiancée. And this is how you treat her. Oliver scoffed. Whatever happens between Zoe and me is none of your business. He reached for her again. Zoe, come on. Stop making a scene. But Zoe had already stepped behind Luis, peeking out from behind him. This isn't a scene, Oliver. I'm serious. I'm not marrying you. Return everything that belongs to me. Luis turned to her, voice soft. You mean it? She nodded. He smiled. Zoe, you're amazing. Oliver, seeing the closeness between them, snapped. You think you can bully everyone because you have money?
Fine.
I'll expose everything. Let's see how your precious family survives in City A after this. His mother stormed out, glaring. The wedding is tomorrow. Invitations are out. Canceling it won't ruin us but your family? They'll be a joke. Then she added cruelly, and no matter how rich you are, you're still disabled. Only our Oliver is generous enough to overlook that. Zoe's jaw clenched. She stared at the entire family as if they were strangers. I don't need you worrying about what people say about me. And since none of you seem to understand decency, I'll let my lawyer explain it to you. She took Luis's hand, turned, and walked out without looking back. Zoe, Oliver shouted behind her. If you walk out that door, don't come crawling back tomorrow begging me to marry you. She didn't stop. In her mind, she laughed bitterly. I'd rather be the joke of the city than tie my life to you again. Luis dropped her off at her apartment. When she got home, she told her stunned parents that the wedding would go on but with Luis as the groom. They were speechless, shocked, but in the end they didn't object. Just as she was settling down to rest, the security guard at the villa called. Miss, there's a man here who says he's your fiancé. He wants to come in and speak with you. She cut him off. Don't let anyone from Oliver's family through the gate. Ever again. But almost immediately after the call ended, she heard shouting outside. Zoe. It was Oliver's voice. A voice that once comforted her. Once, when she was kidnapped and had jumped out of the car to escape, she had hidden in the woods for days, starving and terrified. Oliver had searched for her for 3 nights, his body scratched and bloodied from the thorns. When he found her, he cried, telling her she mattered more than anything. But that was a different man. The one shouting at her door now wasn't him, not really. What do you want? She said through the door without opening it. Zoe, about tomorrow. Mom's not feeling well, so I won't be coming to pick you up. I'll just meet you at the hotel, okay? Don't forget to bring more. I won't bring anything, she interrupted. I'll be too busy with the wedding. Oliver paused. Then he gave a small nod. You're right. Of course, you'll be busy. We can talk about the rest later. If Lisa needs anything, she'll come pick it up. Even now, he still thought she meant she was marrying him. He smiled softly and said, Then get some rest. See you tomorrow. I didn't reply. Mistaking my silence for consent, he left grinning like he had won. I watched him fade into the distance, then called the housekeeper. Disinfect everything he touched. The next morning, I rose before dawn. Today was supposed to be my wedding day, but everything had changed. My father watched me with concern as I got ready. Zoe, are you sure about marrying Luis? He's a good man, no doubt, but there's no foundation between you two. My mother joined in, gently placing a hand on my shoulder. It's just a wedding. Canceling it may be embarrassing, but it won't cost you your happiness. Don't make a decision you'll regret for the rest of your life. I wrapped my arms around them both, smiling. Don't worry. I know exactly what I'm doing. Last night, after Luis dropped me off, I had asked him straight out if he was willing to play along for just one day. In return, I would do anything he asked in the future. Just one performance to save face. No real feelings. No real future. He agreed. And I believed that would be the end of it. Luis arrived exactly on time. Since I had been up so early, I started nodding off in the car. Through the hum of the road, I vaguely heard voices outside. Whose wedding is this? It's so extravagant. Isn't that Prince Ludwig's legendary car fleet? Every one of those cars is a limited edition. It's impossible to see even one on a regular day, and now the entire fleet is here. As I blinked the sleep from my eyes, I thought I recognized a familiar voice full of irritation. Oliver's mother. Where is that unfortunate Zoe? She's so late. Lisa's not feeling well. Come sit with her for a while. Then I saw Oliver himself pacing near the entrance of the hotel with growing impatience. Let's wait a little longer. It's our wedding day. She's probably stuck in traffic, he muttered. A man nearby hesitated, then cautiously asked, Are you talking about Miss Zoe from City A? Yes, Oliver snapped. Why? The man exhaled. Then don't bother waiting. She's not coming. Oliver's brows knotted in disbelief. What are you saying? This is her dream wedding. There's no way she'd miss it. But she already passed by, the man said. She was in Prince Louis's convoy. Prince? I blinked. Wait, wasn't I marrying Louis, not Ludwig? Was this a mistake? But the interior of the car was too warm, too soft, too luxuriously scented. I drifted back to sleep. When I woke again, the convoy had already driven through City A, finally stopping in front of the most luxurious hotel in town. I stepped out in confusion. Why did they change the hotel? But before I could ask, Louis gently led me inside. The moment I entered the grand lobby, I froze. There, hanging in the center of the hall, was a massive wedding photo. Of me and Louis. What? When did we take this photo? I turned to him. Did we ever take this picture? He smiled, warm and sly. It wasn't photoshopped, if that's what you're thinking. Somehow, that reassured me, at least I wasn't losing my memory. But nothing else added up. I remembered choosing traditional red wedding decor, yet the entire space was drenched in elegant blues and soft whites, like a dream. This didn't feel like my wedding. This wasn't the plan. Just as I was about to speak, Louise passed me off to a group of women in matching uniforms, makeup artists. Before I could react, they were undressing me, pulling off the red dress I'd chosen and replacing it with something far more luxurious. The gown they slipped onto me shimmered with diamonds and pearls, catching the light like a field of stars. The skirt flowed with grace, the long train trailing behind me like clouds. This wasn't just a wedding dress, it was a masterpiece. I stood speechless, unable to resist as they styled my hair, applied makeup, and whisked me away to the entrance of the banquet hall. I waited there, stunned. Part of me wondered, how much did Louis spend on all of this? Could I even afford to pay him back? But before I could spiral any further, the doors opened. Light poured in, cameras flashed, and in the next moment, my father appeared beside me, his arm offered in quiet support. I took it, stepping slowly onto the red carpet, approaching Louis at the other end. His eyes never left mine. His expression wasn't playful. It was reverent, steady, sincere. It was a look that didn't match the idea of a mere performance. He reached out and took my father's hand as if sealing a pact, then turned to face the officiant. As the vows began, Louis's voice rang out firm and solemn. I take you, Zoe, to be my wife. It was almost too real. Too believable. I reminded myself again. This wasn't real. This was a show. Just a way to humiliate Oliver. But Louis's eyes, they said otherwise. When the vows ended, he turned to me, knelt down, and opened a box. Inside sat a ruby ring the size of a pigeon's egg, radiant, unmistakably rare. Zoe, he said softly, will you marry me? My mind screamed, it's just acting. But my mouth moved on its own. Yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and the crowd erupted in applause. For a moment, I actually felt like a bride. When the ceremony ended and Louis was taken to toast the guests, I wandered into a quiet corner, staring at the ring. Something didn't feel right. I studied the ruby closely. The cut, the clarity. It wasn't fake. It was real. A collector's piece. There's no way he could afford this. Later, when the crowd began to thin, I finally cornered him. Louis, I said seriously, holding out my hand, Where did this ring come from? He looked surprised for a moment, then gently took my hand in his.
It's a family heirloom, he said.
My mother gave it to me to give to the woman I want to marry. My heart skipped. Then I can't wear it, I said immediately, trying to slip it off. This was just for show. I can't accept something so precious. But Luis closed his fingers over mine and stopped me. Luis looked at me with a soft smile and said, Zoe, haven't you realized it yet? I like you. That's why it's only right you wear this ring. I froze, the weight of his words hitting me harder than I expected. Everything suddenly made sense, the way he used to visit my house under the pretense of seeing my father, how disappointed he looked when I told him I was marrying Oliver in my past life, how he always treated me better than anyone else. I stood there, speechless. Luis's expression turned serious. Zoe, does the promise you made yesterday still count? I had told him I'd grant him any request in return for playing the role of my groom. I never imagined the request would be this. Still stunned, I nodded. A flash of joy crossed his face. He cleared his throat, cheeks turning slightly pink. Then I want today to be real. No more pretending. Is that okay? His voice was hopeful, his gaze sincere. I couldn't bring myself to say no. I nodded again, and in that moment, all the little puzzles from my previous life fell into place. Luis had never just been a quiet bystander, had always been there, quietly caring. Seeing me agree, he lit up like a child granted his biggest wish. He pulled me into a tight embrace. I thought I'd never get the chance to tell you how I feel in this lifetime, he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. But you gave me another chance, Yaya. Now that I have it, I'll never let go. I closed my eyes, resting my head on his shoulder, emotions swirling in my chest, sweet, bitter, warm, sharp. I hugged him back. We stood like that for a long time until he finally let go and said, This wedding was so rushed, my family couldn't make it back from abroad. Why don't we have another ceremony overseas later? I blinked. Abroad? But I thought you were just a struggling student. Luis scratched his head, a little sheepish. I wasn't actually poor. I'd just come back from abroad and wanted to make my own way without relying on my family's money. I was tight on cash at the time. That's when I met you. You insisted on helping me because you thought I needed it. I didn't know how to say no. So that was the truth. I'd always thought he was the one receiving help, but maybe I'd just misjudged. That night, we returned to a temporary wedding home Luis had set up not far from my place. It amazed me how someone could organize such a lavish wedding overnight. Just yesterday I'd asked him for a favor, and by today, he had turned it into a fairy tale. That night, curled up in Luis's arms, I felt an unfamiliar warmth spreading through me. For the first time in a long time, I slept soundly. But the peace didn't last long. Early the next morning, my phone rang urgently. It was my father.
Zoe.
Oliver's family is at the door. They've come to pick you up for the wedding. Luis and I exchanged a look, then quickly got dressed and rushed over. As we stepped into the house, Oliver stormed toward me, his face pale, eyes bloodshot.
Zoe.
Why didn't you come to our wedding yesterday? His voice cracked with desperation. Why did you run away, without saying anything? I waited for you the whole day. The whole night. He reached out to grab me, but I stepped back, disgusted. I told you I am not marrying you. That's not possible, he shouted. You told me to meet you at Hotel XX. You said we'd get married there. His eyes were wide with disbelief. I turned to Luis, who rubbed the bridge of his nose guiltily. I couldn't help but laugh. Zoe, are you still mad? Oliver asked, trying to reason with me. I just pitied Lisa. She's all alone. I thought bringing her to live with us wouldn't hurt anyone. You've done so much for me, of course you have feelings for me, right? If you're uncomfortable, I'll ask Lisa to stay at my parents' place. Let's not fight. We can pick another date. We'll hold a new ceremony. Okay. I was speechless. He sounded completely ridiculous. But seeing that I didn't immediately respond, Oliver took it as a sign of forgiveness and stepped closer. Luis immediately moved in front of me. She didn't run away. She got married yesterday, he said firmly. Oliver blinked, confused. Then he scoffed. Zoe didn't show up yesterday. Don't try reverse psychology to make me feel guilty. I already said I'd marry her even if she's deaf. I'm not going back on my word. I was done. I had no interest in explaining anything to him. Just then, the television in the living room switched to a breaking news segment. On November 14, 2024, heiress Zoe of City A wed Prince Louis in a grand ceremony at Hotel XX. Every head turned to the screen. The footage showed me walking down the aisle, bathed in light, wearing that diamond-studded mermaid gown, flowers in hand, eyes locked on Louis. Oliver stared at the screen, frozen, eyes wide. His head shook violently. No, this isn't real. That's fake. They must have edited it. This is a lie. A trick. Oliver's mother, stunned at first, suddenly exploded. She jabbed a finger at me and screamed, "You filthy girl! Playing with my son while marrying someone else? You think you're so clever? Do you think we'd let this slide?" Her voice turned venomous. "What did you get tired of my son and trade up for a little fame? Who do you think you are? You're deaf, and yet you dare to act high and mighty." Without hesitation, I slapped her. Hard. She staggered back, clutching her cheek, eyes wide in disbelief. In my past life, I would have trembled in fear. But not this time. Your son played the role of a loyal lover while cheating behind my back. You think I'm the one who should be ashamed? I looked her straight in the eyes. You wanted my family's wealth and social status, but not me. You think you deserve both? Don't flatter yourself. For the first time, their masks slipped. Oliver's mother looked panicked.
So, did he?
But they still clung to pride. So what? She said, voice trembling. My son was by your side all these years. He deserves something in return. No one would want you like this if it weren't for him. Just then, Lisa appeared from behind the servants, face pale but tear-streaked. Sister, she said, falling to her knees in front of me, please don't blame mother-in-law. She was just worried about the baby you were going to have with Oliver. That's why she kept me around. If you must blame someone, blame me.
Her fake tears disgusted me.
If you want to act, go do it outside, I said coldly. Don't stay in my home with your nonsense. And one more thing, I am already married. From this day forward, I have nothing to do with any of you. Lisa froze. Her eyes darted nervously, looking for an escape. Sister, I know you're still mad at Oliver. But how can you say such things? Don't worry, I'll leave him. I'll walk away. But after giving him so many years of my youth, don't you think I deserve a little something in return? Of course. In the end, it was always about money. I should have known. How could someone like Lisa, who measured everything in value, truly want someone like Oliver? He had nothing. Yet now they dared to ask me for compensation? My gaze turned cold. I pulled out my phone and called security. But before the call even ended, a group of men in black suits entered the villa silently, surrounding the three of them. I hadn't even noticed Luis had wrapped his arm around my waist. He gave me a soft, reassuring nod. Don't worry. With a single glance from him, the men moved. In seconds, Oliver, his mother, and Lisa were being dragged toward the exit. Oliver struggled, desperate to get closer. His mother's shrill voice rang out behind her. You're deaf and broken. Who would ever want you but my son? I stopped in my tracks and turned. My hearing came back long ago, I said, loud and clear for everyone to hear. You just never knew. She stared at me, stunned, as if her world had flipped. The one thing she thought made me lesser my supposed weakness had been gone all along. Without it, she had no power. And she knew it. Oliver turned to look at me, eyes wide with something close to disbelief. He took a few hesitant steps forward, his voice suddenly soft, almost pleading. Zoe, I was wrong. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please just give me one more chance. I stared at him with the same detachment you'd give a stranger on the street. Not anger, not pity, just nothing. As they were dragged away, I watched them in silence and whispered under my breath, "He got what he deserved." Once they were gone, I turned to Luis and smiled. "Did you find the lawyer?" He reached out and playfully tapped my nose. "Of course. I contacted one of the top legal teams long ago. Oliver's family won't even get a hair off your head." I laughed. Perfect. For a while after that day, Oliver and his family disappeared. They tried calling me, but I blocked every number. They even showed up outside my parents' new place since my folks had moved to a gated community with tighter security. Security always turned them away. Eventually, I stopped hearing about them. But later, my lawyer gave me an update. After I recovered all my assets, Oliver's family was left drowning in debt. They had planned to beg for forgiveness and get Oliver to win me back. But they couldn't reach me, and creditors were closing in fast. With nowhere else to turn, they started showing up at the homes of relatives, demanding the return of old gifts. Most relatives refused. Oliver's mother, enraged, broke into one of their houses and ended up in a physical altercation that landed multiple people in the hospital. That was only the beginning. Desperate, Oliver begged Lisa to sell the jewelry he'd once given her to pay off some of their debt. But Lisa had other plans. She took the jewelry and what was left of the family's valuables and vanished. Abigail, upon discovering the theft, chased her into traffic. Lisa was hit by a car and died on the spot. When I heard the news, I let out a long sigh. I didn't feel joy or satisfaction, just closure. Then Luis and I boarded a private jet bound for Country M. Only after marrying him did I learn just how wealthy his family truly was. They didn't live in a villa. They lived in a palace-sized estate. And in their family portraits, I saw faces I had only ever seen in the news. One afternoon, while we sat in the garden, Luis took my hand gently. "What are you thinking about?" I laced my fingers with his. "Husband," I smiled. "Why do you love me?" He tilted his head. "Love doesn't need a reason." There was a peace in my chest I had never known with Oliver. A calm that made the rest of the world feel quiet. I laughed softly. "If only I had chosen you from the start." Luis shook his head gently. "Every step in life matters. If it had been earlier, maybe we wouldn't have been ready. Maybe you wouldn't have picked me then." I nodded. Back then, I didn't know what love really was. I just hated seeing the people around me get hurt, so I took the pain for them. Oliver said he'd marry me, and I didn't dislike him, so I said yes. Then my parents objected, and I pushed forward out of rebellion, not affection. But the truth is I never really loved him. Luis suddenly cupped my face, his expression tense.
"And me?"
"Are you with me because you feel grateful? Because I helped you?" I chuckled, lowering his hands and interlocking our fingers.
"No."
"What I feel for you is love. A real desire to spend the rest of my life with you." Luis, normally composed and cool, blushed deeply. We hugged each other tightly, right there on that private jet, as if trying to merge two lives into one. And for the first time, my heart knew what true happiness felt like.